What's up, beautiful people? Jen here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jenna Lee, aka Jen Sparkly, commander of the Sparkle Army. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel and hanging out in my little corner of the internet. I hope you'll stay. Today is going to be a story time. I have several times over the last few months when I ask for a Q&A, obviously, as judged by the sex questions, sex ed video I recently did, I do get a very wide spectrum of questions, ranging from who's your favorite wrestler, what's your favorite lipstick, how'd you end up as a stripper, did anyone ever touch your butt? I've gotten a very bizarre and interesting spectrum of questions, but one that tends to come up every single time I do a Q&A is, how did you become a stripper? So let's talk about it. Now, the fact that I became a stripper is not entirely shocking. It's not one of those jobs where I thought, my God, how did I end up here? Although there were those times later, but any honest stripper will tell you that those nights happen. At the time, I had lost my job and waiting tables was not enough. I needed more money. My parents had just split up. My mother was left with next to nothing, and changes had to be made and money had to come in. My brother was a senior in high school and could only do so much, and you fight for your mom. That's what you do. So I had worked as a Hooter girl for almost 4 years, and the nicest club in Mobile at the time was Sammy's, which is a local, like, Alabama, Florida chain. There's one in Mobile, Alabama. Well, not anymore. There's one in Birmingham. There is one in Pensacola, Florida, and there is one in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. I, over the course of my time as a dancer, worked at all of them but the Birmingham, Alabama location. I went in. I actually had a close friend who was dancing there at the time, and she kind of pulled me in, and I originally was just going to be a waitress, and I realized that very quickly the money was in dancing, hand over fist. Like, as long as I continued dancing, even for years, I never understood how waitresses made consistent money, because everything in a strip club is set up for the dancer to make money, not the waitress, not the bartender, not the bouncer. Anyway, so I worked for about a month, maybe not even that long, as a waitress, and I just said, I just want to dance. Like, I don't want to do this. This is exhausting. The hours are long, and there are some very cutthroat waitresses in strip clubs, and every stripper who ever watches this is going to go, yeah. Anyway, it was not a big jump for me, and I'll explain why. I always had this almost fascination with strippers from a very young age. One of my earlier memories was like playing with my little toy cars on our coffee table in our living room. I was probably 3 or 4. Mom was in the kitchen cooking lunch, whatever, and the Donahue talk show was on. And, you know, back in the mid-'80s, a lot of talk shows would have guests on that were considered shocking for the time. New York club kids, goths, strippers. This particular episode had a stripper, and I distinctly, as clear as day, it has been like 33 years ago, and I can see this woman perfectly in my head right now. She had long, waist-length, curly, dark brown hair. She had the sections in the side pulled up here so it flowed down, and she had the thick 80s bangs. I can't tell you how many times I wish I knew who she was so I could thank her in an odd way. But I looked up and watched. And of course, on that, like, it was NBC, so they weren't going to show nudity. But she came out and did like a little striptease and just stripped down to a bra and panties. And I was absolutely transfixed. I'm sure my being bisexual probably played into this somehow too. But anyway, right around the time she finished her little routine and plopped down to do her little interview segment with Donahue, Mom came in with lunch and immediately grabbed the remote and changed it. We're not watching that. Quietly, I sat there and thought, I wanted to hear what she had to say. And I'm like 3, but I wanted to know. Anyway, that stuck in my head, and I always thought what an oddly fun job it would be. And I know, I'm sure people are sitting here just rolling their eyes. Sorry. It's how I felt. I'm glad my dad doesn't watch my YouTube channel, because when I was like 8, 9, I actually learned like playing dress up as a stripper. Like layering bathing suits and like practicing dancing to music. Terrible, isn't it? As I say it out loud, it just sounds so much worse than I swear it was. Because of course I didn't really understand what it, I still didn't understand that they got naked. I thought it was just like bikini top, bra, another bra, another bra, another bra. I didn't get that. But it's what I did. And you just haven't lived until you have seen a strip routine to Hangin' Tough by the New Kids on the Block, okay? Or like Release Me by Wilson Phillips. Anyway, I was always kind of the nerdy kid. Like, I wasn't bullied per se, but I wasn't included either. I look back even now on my middle school years, and you can ask anyone who knows me, with just revulsion, and I just block it out. There are 2 people from my middle school years who truly stand out as how I survived it, and one was my friend Angie, and the other one was my little middle school boyfriend Josh. Without those 2 people, I would not have made it through middle school, period, point blank, end of discussion. Either way, going to high school was a world of difference, because the middle school I went to was a magnet school situated on the outskirts. It was North Mobile County, but it was in an area connected to an area, Satsuma, Saraland, Axis, Creola, North Mobile County, where there are a lot of middle class families who think that they're upper class. They definitely think that they are better than others, and they don't mind behaving like it. And I can remember, like, I gained my ability to really constantly be worried about how I look at all times. That's why you see me fidget with my hair constantly. That's why I'm constantly cutting my eyes in the viewfinder. Even now, I am constantly hyper aware of how I look at any given moment. Like, you guys can't see my stomach, but I'm still positioning myself in a way so that, like, the little tummy roll doesn't happen, because it's just trained in me from that time in middle school. Because I heard girls get bullied and picked on for the most ridiculous things. I actually remember sitting in the locker room in 7th grade and hearing 2 girls, cheerleaders, because that's in that backwoods type of area, very small town, very football player and cheerleader rules the world. They still have pageants, for Christ's sakes. They were mocking a girl for the brand of shampoo she used. And no, that's not an exaggeration. It's not a joke. It's not hyperbole. They were literally mocking her because she used cheap shampoo. So she must be poor white trash. That's where I went to middle school. So you can imagine why I like to. It's gone. High school was much better. I went to Murphy High School in Mobile, Alabama. Go Panthers. And it was just a world of change. I realized when I got there that the little small town that seemed to be the beginning and end of the world, once you actually got into Mobile City proper, those people didn't even exist. No one talked about that area. No one talked about those schools. No one talked about those people. It was like they fell off the face of the planet. I couldn't have been happier about it. Because the thing that I loved about Murphy, and it's the one catchphrase that has kind of become my go-to to explain how diverse it was no one ate lunch alone. Like, I can remember in middle school there were certain kids who actually had to sit by themselves and eat lunch. And in retrospect, I wish that I'd been a big enough person to talk to them, to be better. Because when you're that young, you're just trying to cover your own ass. You're just trying not to get mocked or made fun of or singled out, because that's the last thing in the world you want. Well, at Murphy, everyone had a social circle. The drama kids, the band kids. Of course, there were the jocks and cheerleaders. But even at Murphy, they weren't the bully type that you hear. Like, everyone always talked about the toxic nature of Columbine High School and how the jocks picked on all the goths and freak kids. And that didn't happen at Murphy. I'm sure they snickered about us freak kids, but they were never, ever bullyish or rude. As a matter of fact, I was on pretty great speaking terms with everyone. You know, no, I wasn't popular, but I also never really strove to be. Like, it wasn't what I was focused on. I was focused on writing, and that was my dream, was to be a writer. That was all I cared about. I wasn't concerned with hanging out with popular people or being in a clique. And actually, from about halfway through my junior year on, I didn't even really hang out with a lot of people in high school. Like, my senior year, I didn't hang out with really anybody from high school. So that was just how it worked for me. That's not me bragging, oh, I was so cool. Anyway, I learned very quickly, though, that I wasn't going to be like a well-known person for being the prettiest or the funniest or the smartest. I did fine for myself, but I never really got noticed. When I started Murphy, suddenly boys wanted to talk to me, and boys thought I was pretty. I'm sure it had something to do with the fact that my boobs shot up from like a B cup to like a full C. But you know, hindsight. And I've always by nature just been a flirtatious person. I learned very young the power that comes with sexuality and the power that comes with embracing your sexuality. And I used it. I can distinctly remember sitting at lunch one day and talking to one of my best friends, and she was like, they're going to call you a slut. And I didn't say it out loud, but my thought was, I'd rather be called a slut than not called anything at all. Now, I'd like to rewind back to that time and make some different decisions, but again, hindsight. What are you going to do? So anyway, graduated high school, did the whole college thing, did all that. The idea of being a stripper never left my head. Like, maybe one day. Maybe one day. It wasn't something that I thought about every day. It wasn't something that I was eager to do. But it just always sat in the back of my mind like, yeah, maybe one day I'll do that. And when I left Hooters, there was my one day. And I remember auditioning and realizing very quickly that, like, going into the club and like dancing with your girlfriends it's not the same thing as performing in a strip club. And I'll be honest with you, you can go to any strip club today and you'll see that not every girl understands that. Some girls might have like a slow song playing and they're still like, listen to what you're dancing to. There are girls in every club now that cannot sell a song, you know, and that was something I prided myself on, was that every song that I danced to, I wanted to perform that song. For me, being on stage was just as much about putting on a show as it was making money. And very quickly into my time as a dancer, I met Josh, who was the day shift DJ, and we started dating, and we were together for about 5 years. He's still a dear friend, but we'd be a train wreck if we had gotten married. We're a lot alike in a lot of ways, and in a lot of ways, we are two entirely different people. But either way, I bounced back and forth between two clubs here in Mobile, a club called Sammy's, the club at the time that was the nicest, and then the club that was pretty much like neck and neck with it, which was called the Candy Store. And both clubs had pros and cons. There were things I liked about each club, but in my heart, Sammy's was always just my favorite spot because I liked the main stage setup. It was elevated and it was rectangular with a point and the pole in the middle of that point. And I used to love, like, when it was packed in there, being able to swing around the pole, catch it, and stand with my back to it and just kind of pose and look out at the people looking at me. I know a lot of people will look down on strippers and pass judgment, and I'll be honest, yeah, there are girls in there who do dirty, dirty things for not very much. But there are also girls in there who are paying for school, and there are girls in there who do the job right and are entertainers. And I used to always say, I'm not a stripper, I'm an entertainer. I would be just as fine with, like, just throw the money on the stage. You don't even have to stick it in my drawers. Just throw it to me, because I like to perform. I love it. That's why I liked burlesque. For the longest time, until now I'm fat, but I used to love my body and I had no problem running around naked. I enjoyed it. But, yeah, a lot of people will hate me for that. We're going to cut it off here. If y'all want to hear more about this, let me know, because I like talking about it. I didn't really mean to go off on all the tangents I did, but I kind of just wanted to be open and honest with you guys. So, if you'd like to hear more tales from the strip club, let me know. And as always, social media links are in the description below, as are all my coupon codes. Don't forget to shop and save money via me. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. Hang out with me on Snapchat. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join the Sparkle Army. Hit that notification bell. And as always, I love you guys. Stay beautiful.